Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suavelous day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence the pay.
Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous.
Together we can fix the trauma that's befallen us.
Divine social interactions remains marvelous.
Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, let not your hearts be troubled, Dr. Brother Suave.
Divine light get you dull.
Greetings, this is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator, and host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Man, it's such a beautiful day, a long day, I tell you. When I say a long day, man. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, working and doing some things, man, preparing for today's show. Went out, found out, man, someone stole my tag today. Can you believe that? Somebody stole my tag, but I'm just happy, I got it back. I just thank God for waking me up to see another day I ain't never seen before, another day to get it right, and another day to tell my friends and family, remember those I love them. And, and the great thing, even though my tag was stolen, and gave me a little, a moment, I was happy because East Point Police Department recovered the tag. So that's thumbs up. It's a great job. East Point Police Department, they called me, they handled it, did the report, and that was really, really, really great. And I appreciate that. Also, I've been on the road also, been Wilmington, North Carolina. I don't know where I am right now. Had to just go at a hotel and get a little rest. And then I got to be to the Bronx, New York, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I got to make it back to the A. But anyway, this is a great day. This is season 6, episode 2 on, and it's the second year. When I say the second year, so happy, but the second year of Life After the Gridiron. Man, listen, last year was a great year. It was our introduction to discussing life after playing professional sports and football and being on that gridiron. And this year we started off really great with our Super Bowl champion, Lionel Jelly Roll Dalton. So that was great, man. So I'm just looking forward to really enjoying what our very special guest tonight. Listen, I'm gonna just do a little reading of little things about him because the brother's great. So tonight's guest is Leon Searcy, a former Pittsburgh Steeler, also a University of Miami great. He was an All-American at University of Miami, who won three national championship titles while he was at there. He was a first-round draft choice, picked by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played in Super Bowl 30. He was selected as one of the top 25 Jacksonville players of all time. He lived a very wonderful life, life of luxury, life of ups and downs. But at the end of the day, man, he's still living and still striving and still being the best version of himself. So without further ado, let's welcome my wonderful and talented and one of UM's great, Mr. Leon Searcy.
What's going on, gentlemen? How you doing?
Welcome. Hey, man, welcome.
Thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate you.
Hey, no, thank you. You one of the greats. And, a lot of people talk behind your back, but talk behind your back is a lot of positive things, man. Some of the people who was telling me, man, oh, man, Leon, he's the bomb. You remember how, like, even when we met, what's the brother name who has the mental health clinic or was playing golf? He's a Kappa. I'm having a brain fart, but the brother, we met in college. So it's just been so long ago, man. But just thank you, man. Just thank you for showing up. I know last year we was having you, just was going through, I think, some things, and all I know is when you think positive things come out. Sometimes people rush, oh man, you just have to understand.
It's called divine timing. Divine timing,
absolutely. And so, I just want to break the ice by just asking you a little about yourself and your humble beginnings.
Okay, well, I'm Leon Searcy Jr. I was born in Washington, D.C. My mom and dad were, I could give you a nice little story how I ended up in D.C. My mom was an educator. My dad was a former Black Panther. And my mom and dad met in Manchester, Georgia. My mom was the first Black teacher in an all-white school in Manchester, Georgia. She was appointed by Lyndon B. Johnson to be the school teacher in an all-white school in Manchester, Georgia. And my dad and my mom met in Manchester because my mom was the educator and my dad was the active in civil rights. My dad was trying to integrate a lot of the stores and coffee shops and cafes in Manchester. So my dad and my mom kind of were tied in together because of some of the efforts that they put into Manchester, Georgia. They ended up getting together and getting married, and they got up out of Manchester and moved to Washington, D.C. And that's where I was born. I was born in Washington, D.C., Southeast D.C., in City Line Towers. At City Line Towers, I grew up there, and then I ended up moving to Landover, Maryland, where most of my childhood was. In my book, I speak kind of vividly about my times growing up. A lot of people assume that just because you grew up in the hood or the ghetto or in the projects that you may have had a bad childhood, but I did. My parents, both of them, worked hard to make sure to ensure that for the vast majority of the time, I didn't even know I was poor when I was growing up, because my parents always provided. They always worked. They always instilled a great deal of knowledge and information to me, self-love, about who you are, knowing who you are. I read a lot of books when I was young, empowering books that my mom and my dad gave me to love myself and love being who I was, which was a young Black male in the inner city. So I spent a lot of time in D.C. I moved out of D.C. when I was 10 years old. My mom and dad found better jobs in Orlando, Florida, and the vast majority of my time I was raised in Orlando. I was raised in Orlando, and I had this love for sports. I had a love for football. I remember when I was in D.C., I used to love the Redskins. You can't call them the Redskins anymore. Now they're the Commanders.
Yeah.
I call them the artists formerly known as the Redskins, because they can't use that name anymore. But I grew up a Washington Redskin fan because RFK Stadium was like maybe about 5 or 10 miles away from where I lived. And I absolutely loved them because that was my hometown team. So what I used to do when I was little, I used to emulate what I saw on TV. Me and my partners used to go out and play street ball, play sandlot ball. And we emulate the guys that we saw on the Sunday football games or whatever. And I just had this profound love and respect for football. And but I never had the opportunity to play organized football. If you read in my book, there's a portion in my book where I talk about how I was distracted from playing football. It had to do with this one particular coach who thought I was too big to play the game at one particular time. So I was discouraged at a very young age into playing organized football. And then I ultimately went out for football my senior year in high school. Only played 1 year of high school football. I played it well. I trained and got an opportunity to play at the University of Miami, where I went on to play 5 years and win 3 national championships. You got to remember, Miami back in those days was the U. We were the most feared college football program in the country.
Yes.
And I played there 5 years and only lost 4 games and won 3 national championships. After my time at Miami, I was first team All-American. I got drafted in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. As a matter of fact, I was Bill Cowher's first ever pick. When he got the job with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I was his first ever pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I played there 4 years. Played in the Super Bowl against the Cowboys in Super Bowl 30, where we ended up losing to the Cowboys. And then after we lost the Super Bowl, I was a free agent, and I signed with the Jaguars at one particular time in 1996. I was the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. Yeah. And I went on to play with the Jaguars for 5 years, played in 2 AFC championship games. Ended my career with the Dolphins after 1 year with the Ravens as well. And then I retired. And that's when everything started swirling apart. I was ill prepared for life after football. And what I do is I try to mentor to a lot of athletes that are in the league to prepare themselves for when they get in the league, and to make sure that when they leave the league that they have money, that they're financially stable, and they don't have to go through the whirlwind of difficulties that I went through as a player, as a former player. I dealt with bankruptcy. I dealt with IRS issues. I went through divorces. I had to deal with alimony, child support. I had to deal with homelessness at one particular time. I lost family. I lost friends, contact, and that's where I ended up writing my book. I wrote my book probably at the lowest point of my whole entire life. It was in 20 2009. I was in a motel room with no car, no money, having to borrow money from my family just to survive and eat for those weeks or months or whatever. And I remember I used to cry myself to sleep every night, like that was going to help me in some way. And then something just came over me in my spirit and told me to tell my story. And I woke up that morning, I grabbed a tape recorder, had no idea how to write or put together a book like that. But I tell you what the book did. The book was very therapeutic for me because it was times when I was in that motel room, I didn't want to get out of bed. I just wanted to lay there and just rot away. I was on the brink of depression and suicide and all those things that factor into what former players that a lot of players don't like to talk about. But I overcame all that. But the book was my motivation, and the book was called Fourth Down the Dam, a Lineman Story. It took me 10 years to get the book published. I went through a lot of publishing companies that loved the absolute premise of the book, but they thought the book was too raw and too real, and they wanted me to take stuff out, and I refused to do that because I wanted to present my life in full throttle and not be a Disney film, because my life was not a Disney film. My life was real and raw. And then eventually I got the book published, and the book has been doing well. The book was #1 on Amazon Hot New Releases about 2 years ago. I'll be celebrating November the 9th. Will be the 3rd year the book has been out. The book is still doing amazing right now. I'm actually in the works of working with a publishing company to get the script together to turn it into a TV series or a movie.
Great.
That's a lot. That's a lot to digest now.
Yes. Hey, I'm laughing because I was like, okay, I know I was going to he answered that. So I was like, okay. I mean, you said a lot. But the thing is, it was when you said about, you made me reflect about some things, and people don't understand what you go through. You can have so much fame, recognition at one point, but not understand you have these high points and these valley lows, and people don't understand, what you go through in terms of the thoughts, the depression, and those things. It could be a lot of challenge, but one thing about it, when you have a solid foundation, you reflect back on mom and dad and how much they believe in you, and they taught you about self-love and having good love for yourself. Man, you can overcome anything. See, the thing is, you had that foundation, and that's that intangible. That's the things like they said. Janae said, "Qua." It's something about that in you that
Well,
was built, but you was able to overcome.
well, I'm gonna tell you what really, when I reflect on those days back when I was struggling and trying to survive, so to say, and it's difficult for people to assess being in survival mode, and the survival mode. I was in survival mode, not knowing where I was going to eat, when the next bill was going to come, and I think the biggest thing that I did is that I had to deal with myself. A lot of people, they struggle with trying to assess the blame on other people, but I think that the most empowering thing that a person can ever do, no matter what situation they're in, is to take ownership of that situation, because it's empowering. Because if you say to yourself, you know what, I got myself in this situation by the poor choices and poor decisions that I made.
Ownership, integrity,
Now, now you take the power away from anybody else and you empower yourself, because if you made those same bad decisions, now you can make the right decisions to get you out of the situation and predicament. See, when I stopped blaming other people for the situation that I was in, and I took ownership for it and accountability, then I knew that I could go on and move forward into making the right decisions to get myself out of that situation. The reason why I'm here speaking to you today is because I took ownership and accountability for all the mistakes and all the people that I associated myself with. And I told myself that moving forward, that I was going to make better decisions. I was going to make better decisions on the people I dealt with, the people I associated with, and all that stuff. Ever since I started doing that, man, it's been empowering for me, because now I know it's called self-love. You love yourself. Loving yourself is important. What you say about yourself every morning, every day is empowering. And if you
Definitely.
use those words appropriately, man, it can motivate you to do almost anything you put your mind to.
Absolutely. You manifest these things into reality. And
Absolutely.
you again, today's character or believing in yourself is like something bad, but people believe all the negative things. I always say that, I can is easier to say than I can't, because you get to see
Hmm.
before you get to the T. And sometimes that T is like, I can't. But when you say I can, it's a lot easier. And again, man, that self love is something else. That mantra is amazing. I'm happy because you was able to empower yourself. Like when they were talking about they wanted to be a fairy tale because they didn't want the part of showing integrity and character and showing that
Hmm.
whatever you get, and there's going to be some unpopular things that you experience or some things that make people feel a little anxious. But the reality, those things are empowering because here you are, a nationally known person, professional athlete, future Hall of Famer, a Hall of Famer in college and everything. And when people see that you went through it and overcame for flying colors, that gives them belief that they can do it. And you didn't
Hmm.
have to paint a fairy tale.
Hmm.
We paint these
Absolutely.
fairy tales,
Listen,
these
I
movies
tell
where
people, I tell people this all the time. I've never lost in life. I've learned. I've never taken an L. I've been a winner all my life.
yes,
I've never taken an L. I've learned from the
yes.
mistakes that I made, but I've never lost because I believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens
Yes.
for a reason. And,
Learning reason.
I didn't ask, I'm not saying that, I wanted to go through that situations that I went through, but because of the poor decisions and choices that I made as a young adult, it put me in that predicament. But now, that was a lesson learned. So now that I overcame that and I've learned from it, I could be an inspiration for others that may be going through something like that. And so now
Absolutely.
I can tell you that, you know, you learn from those mistakes, you overcome those mistakes, and you're better for those mistakes you made. And now you can be an inspiration for others that may be going through the same thing that you may be going through. And I just want to let people know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. It
It
is.
is.
It looked dark at first. It looked dark, but I'm telling you, it's light in. I'm a living testimony of it. I am. Just listen. Just 14 years ago, I was dead broke, living in a motel room without a car, without a friend, or not even family. And I had to inspire and motivate myself each and every day to get to the point where I could stand on my own 2 feet and stand before you and say that I made it. I did it.
You did it.
Hmm.
And that's because you didn't give up on yourself.
I didn't. I didn't. I couldn't. I mean, and to this day, I'm my biggest cheerleader. I don't need nobody to cheerlead me because I'm gonna always celebrate me each and every day.
You know what? I'm not going to even talk about that. We'll talk about that at a later date because I'm clear on that, bro. Because I just think about people always say, once you let us say you're great, why you got to say you're great? You think I'm going to wait on you?
Mm-mm. I need my
No.
flowers now. I don't need you to
Yeah.
tell me
There you
afterwards.
go. There you go. I write these posts. A dead person can't hear your admiration.
Joe can't.
So, and I'm definitely not going to wait for you to say, something positive about me because I'm going to believe myself. And that's how you get through things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
And the fact that when you were saying about when people are able to see that you went through it and they can go through it, think about all the, you know, you say things happen for a reason. When we look at the martyrs, we could look at the journey of the young man born Michael Little and died El Hawkins because of that
Mm-hmm.
journey. He's inspirational. People still talking about the greatness and how much he gained and how he was one of the most prolific speakers in the history of the world. That was a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And he has inspired people and he's been gone for years, over 50 years. So hey, your story is inspirational, it's motivating, and when people learn that nobody's beyond going through hardships, it's just a matter of these tests that you go through, and hopefully they can become testimonies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I know you went through some of the things. I just want to recap on some of them. So being a winner, being a great athlete, you know, man, how was that Super Bowl loss? Because it was like really one of the first really major losses that you ever had. And
Yeah,
in a minute, you've been a winner,
yeah.
and you've been winning,
Well, well, I tell you this. Well, listen. I learned how to be a champion at the University of Miami.
Yes.
I had, before I get to the Super Bowl, I learned how to be a champion at the University of Miami. My coach for the first 2 years was Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy Johnson was a stickler. I mean, he always had these catchphrases that always rang near and dear to your soul. And Jimmy Johnson used to say, anybody can be ordinary, but it takes courage to excel. The one thing that Jimmy Johnson was emphatic upon was that being great.
Yes.
I can tell you a story on my on my signing day. My signing day, when I was about to sign with the University of Miami, I was at my high school. I was at my high school, and it was my mom, my dad, and my sister. And my recruiting coordinator was Don Solinger.
Oh,
And we're sitting, yeah,
Coach
Coach Solinger was my recruiting coordinator. He was the guy that recruited me. And I never forget what he said to me one day. We were sitting at the table, and he goes in his briefcase, and he pulls out the letter of intent to sign with the University of Miami. And he puts the letter of intent on the table, and he slides it to me. And when I'm about to grab it and sign it, he pulls it back. And he looks at me and says, Leon, he said, understand this. He said, Leon, if you're not good, you won't play. And he said, if you're not great, don't come. And that right there always rings true to me when I think about it, because he told me straight up, he said, if you're not great, don't come. That was the standard. That was the standard at the University of Miami at my particular time. If you're not coming there to be great, we don't want you. Yeah. And if you're not good enough, you're not going to play. So, I mean, I learned my greatness was instilled in me very early, in my young football career when I was at University of Miami, and being great. And that carried over when I went to the pros. And it was insufferable when I lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, because I couldn't imagine I had been winning all my life.
Yes.
I won championships. I've been winning all my life, and the assumption to me was, there's no way we're going to lose to these Cowboys. And when we lost to the Cowboys, it was the most devastating loss that ever occurred in my whole career, because we were on the brink of something great, and then not to accomplishment was just so disheartening. So, I mean, that was the most devastating loss that I ever occurred, losing to Cowboy. And then the fact that most of the Cowboy players on that team were guys I played with at Miami.
Yes, I was going to say.
Michael Irvin, Russell Merrill, Darren Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys I played with at the University of Miami. I mean, so that may have softened the blow a little bit. But I was like, the hell with that. They already got 2 rings. What they need 3 for? Shoot, they had already won back-to-back championships. Three championships was just being greedy. He just being greedy now. That's all.
Yes. Leon wanted his ring, because
I wanted it. I absolutely wanted the ring.
Yeah, they show that ring off.
They do. And what's the crazy part? I'm gonna tell you, the crazy part about losing to the Cowboys is that I was supposed to be a Dallas Cowboy. On draft day in 1992. The Dallas Cowboys were at my house. They were the first team to call me. That they said they were going to draft me in the first round in 1992, but the Steelers took me earlier before them, because the Steelers had the 11th pick and the Cowboys had the 17th pick. But Jimmy Johnson called me 9 o'clock in the morning and told me I was going to be a Cowboy.
And you want us to go find Jimmy Johnson and do something to him, or we just
Jimmy's my guy. I love Jimmy Johnson.
I'm saying, but we want you to get that ring. So you sure?
Listen. As much as I adore that championship ring, I think I know I made the right decision when I played with the Steelers. I absolutely loved being a Pittsburgh Steeler. Everything about it. I mean, the city of Pittsburgh was tough and physical and hard nosed, and you bring your hard hat and your lunch pail. That was right up my alley. I was a big, tough, physical offensive lineman who loved to get after defensive players. So, I mean, that played right into, you know, my kind of psyche and the way I played the offensive line position. Because I played the offensive line position like a D tackle. I was always on the attack.
Always. Oh, man. Hey, listen, what we're going to do is going to come back, but we're going to go into station identification. We'll be right back with our special guest, Leon Searcy. Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. So it is so many benefits to being proactive. I remember during the recession, you know, I would hear people saying, listen, I need a job. And they wouldn't hire people who need it. And the person, they hired a person who had a job and they applied for another job as opposed to, I don't have a job. And,
That's time to look for a job is when you already have one.
Yes, yes. And again, Brother Frederick was saying this, I try not to get so caught up on religious philosophy and how spiritual are, but a foundation is so important because it gives you some morals and values. No matter if you're a Muslim, a Catholic, or a Jehovah's Witness, or a Christian, or a Baptist, or whatever, you have to have respect. You can't do that. You can't do that stuff. You know, and so we teach them emotional intelligence, teach them how to think about things before they react. Can't be impulsive. Need someone to learn behaviors as you listen. Just remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye. Greetings, Dr. Brother Suave. We're back with our very special guest, Mr. Leon Searcy. You great. And we were just discussing about his past, his experience, his draft choice, and being nasty, being in that steel city of Pittsburgh. And speaking of being nasty, after playing with the Steelers, how'd you end up in Jacksonville?
Well, I ended up in Jacksonville because my agent tricked me.
Okay, good. I mean, you were the bomb. I think you would try to get in Dallas at some place.
No, reason why Dallas was already established. You know, they had a solid offensive line. They had one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. So, I mean, they weren't looking to replace anybody. You know, so so when I was in free agency, you know, I was going to go to a team that actually needed a tackle or needed some offensive line help, and it ended up being the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I remember after we lost the Super Bowl, I remember Coach Cowell called me like a week later, and he said, "Listen, Leon, I don't care what upper management says about you." He says, "I want you to be a Steeler for life."
Okay.
He said, before you make any decision, give me a call. I said, okay, coach. I said, coach, no problem. So free agency comes about. ESPN has their top 10 free agents of the offseason, and they had me at like number 5. I was one of the top 5 free agents coming out in that year in 1992. So I told my agent, who was Drew Rosenhaus, I said, Drew, I said, man, listen, Steelers get first dibs on anything. I said, I don't care who else comes about. I said, I want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He said, okay, fine. So free agency rolls around. All these players are getting signed. All these offensive linemen are getting signed or whatever. I'm not hearing anything from anybody. So I called Drew up and I said, Drew, what's going on, man? I said, all these guys signing before me, man. All these guys behind me signing before me. I said, what's going on? He said, well, Leon, the Steelers aren't, you know, they're not making any moves. And I said, why are they not making any moves? Well, he said, well, they don't feel that you're worth the money that we're at. They don't feel that you're worth the money. I said, I don't believe that. He said, okay, what we're going to do is, he said, I'm going to call the Steelers. I'm going to put you on three-way, and I'm going to let you listen to what they had to say about you. Now, you got to understand, man, I'm 24 years old.
Yeah,
And me
that's
not
young.
understanding the art of negotiation. We high, they low, we meet somewhere in the middle. So I'm on the phone three-way. The Pittsburgh Steelers have no idea I'm on the phone or whatever. And they're just bad mouthing me. They're saying these things. Leon's not this, he's not that. He's a system player. He's only started a couple of years. We're not gonna pay that kind of money. He's not worth it. He's not even the best offensive lineman on the team. Than that. So
Oh,
I'm hearing this I'm hearing this on the phone. They have no idea I'm on the phone. When I get off the phone, I'm irate.
yes.
You know, it almost broke my heart to hear them say what they said about me. But here's the thing: Bill Cowher had already warned me. He said, Leon, no matter what they say, I want you. So when I got off the phone, I called my agent. Man, I said, man, the hell with Pittsburgh. I said, the hell with Pittsburgh. I said, find me a team so I can prove them that I can go anywhere and have success. My agent called me up 2 days later. He said, I got a team for you. I said, who? He said, you want to be like in Florida? I said, yeah, absolutely. I thought it was going to be Tampa Bay or Miami.
Uh-huh.
He said Jacksonville. I said, Jacksonville. I said, the
Ball.
Jaguars. I said, the Jaguars suck. That's exactly what I said. You know, Jaguars that year were 3-13. I said, I ain't going to know. He said, Leon, just go down there and check them out. So I went down there. They wined me and dined me. They told me, Leon, you come here, you know, we're going to be building something special, this, that. They were just running. I just figured they were just running their mouth or whatever. You know, Tom Coughlin was telling me. They were selling me. You know, they were selling me some snake oil. That's what I thought. But eventually I wanted to be back in Florida. You know, I was looking at the team and some of the guys that they had implemented, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give Jacksonville a shot. And then I ended up signing with the Jaguars. And, you know, the years I was there in Jacksonville from 96 to 2000, you know, we were one of the winningest franchises in that 4-year span than any other team in the NFL.
Yeah,
And it had a lot to do with the guys that we had. It wasn't just me. It was me, Baselli, Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith, Keno Cardell, Fred Taylor, all those guys. We had assembled a powerhouse in Jacksonville for those 4 to 5 years. And, you know, we dominated at the AFC for those years that we played.
Wow. So, and also you end up being the top 25 best Jacksonville Jaguars in the history of the franchise.
Yeah, you know, a couple of years ago, you know, they had the 25th anniversary of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, Jaguars, a couple of years ago, you were celebrating their 25th anniversary, so they came out with the top 25 Jaguars of all time. And it was. Hey, listen, I was thankful and grateful to be on the list. I was a little low. They had me number 14. I thought I should have been top 10, but that's here nor there. But they did have me, the organization, and because what they did is they had the newspaper, the journalists. They voted on the top 25, and they had me one of the top 25 Jaguars of all time. And I mean, that was special to me. That was special to me. And the University of Miami did too. The University of Miami had their top 100, Hurricanes of all time, and they had me at 25. So being top 25 Hurricane, being a top 25 Jaguar, not too bad.
Yes, excellent. So, you're rich and famous, and I wanted to know how difficult it is to be rich and famous and not knowing who's really your friend and really who got your best interest. Because I've noticed when people hit rock bottom and you're not like in a position where you have people work regular 8 to 5 jobs and everybody's making $100,000. You're in the company of millionaires, and if a person making $100,000, they have easily $25,000 in throwaway discretionary money. So you're dealing with millionaires, and how difficult that is, like when you're going through something, for them to look out for you, or knowing that your net worth, you can get it back eventually. How does that feel? And also the people like friends and family who try to asking you, because you're the go-to person when they all of a sudden have all these emergencies, you know.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When I mentor the young athletes who are at the professional level, I tell them to be aware of pariahs.
Right.
And pariahs, people who want to latch on to you because you make money. And, it's hard to figure out who your friends are when everybody's saying yes. Hey man, I'm going to the club, yes. Strip club, yes. I'm going on this trip, yeah. I mean, so it's hard you don't have a lot of friends who have your best interest at hand because they all want to be benefactors of your money and your time and what you spend. And that's women and men as well, and family members as all. So
Yes.
I tell a lot of young athletes, man, learn how to say no. Learn how to say no. I mean, because here's the thing: there's so much noise that's going on in the world that sometimes you don't have time to hear the whisper, because you have an inner voice. You have a voice. I always tell athletes to find quiet time away from all the noise and all. And if you listen carefully, that inside voice will tell you what you need to do. But the problem is, guys they're circumvented by so much chaos that they can't find a quiet place to just think because they got so much going on. So yeah, you've just got to ask for discernment. You got to ask for a discerning spirit to where you have the right people around you, because too often there's a lot of people that are in the business of taking away business from you. I mean, whether it be family members, whether it be friends, whether it be women, whether it be agents, financial guys, real estate guys, tax guys, you just got to surround yourself with the right people that got your best interests at heart. If not, you're going to find yourself in a situation when your career is over, you're going to be left with nothing. And the sad
Absolutely.
thing about it is, I mean, the statistics speak for themselves.
Yeah.
When
Numbers don't lie.
78% of the guys who leave the NFL broke.
Yeah.
And then when you think 78% of the guys who leave the NFL broke, and 82% of those guys are black men. The NFL is made up of 82% of black males.
Yes. And the thing is, my mentor on there, Brother Wally, and and it's a blessing that when you be around so many associates and friends of mine, and I'm just happy to see them win because
Mm-hmm.
um, they're doing okay. You understand? They're doing
Yeah.
okay, and taking into consideration that the kind of money that they made is nothing in comparison to what the kids are making these days. But these
Mm-hmm.
because they made wise choices and they learned to say no. You know, you have to
Mm-hmm.
say no because at the end of the day, you
Well,
have a
I
choice.
also tell players the biggest investment you can ever make is in yourself.
Yes, yes,
Yes, that's the biggest investment you can ever make. If you just sit down, I mean, you sit down and learn from yourself about finances, learn for yourself about investing, real estate, all those kind of things. It doesn't take that long. I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't take that long to self-educate yourself on some of the dynamics of financial. I mean, because I'm a proponent of teaching players, kids at a very young age about finances and investing and all that kind of stuff. So when they get because I'm telling the truth. I mean, I didn't come from money. My mom and dad worked, but my mom and dad never seen $1 million, and they worked all their life. So all of a sudden, in April of 1992, their son was a millionaire. They weren't equipped to tell me what to do with that money, or how to
Yeah.
invest it, or what to do, what not to do. Too often, they entrusted other people, advisors, to come in and. Oh shit! Wait a minute. Hold on. You hear me?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, something just happened. Yeah, too often, they leave that in the hands of other people, and because they're ill-equipped to teach me how to do it. So I tell a lot of players to learn about uh, finances and investing and all that kind of stuff, while you're in middle school or even in high school.
Yeah, it's funny. Just today, um, I was posting something about ignorance as not having the best internet connection, I was going to read it, but obviously I can't. But it's like you're born in ignorance, and you're living in ignorance, and then you die in ignorance. You know,
Mm,
like at this stage in the game, I just think that each generation should get better and better. But it seems like in our community, we may take 2 steps up and 4 back, so we end up still being in the negative. You know,
mm-hmm,
and I think when people are telling their stories, this is an excellent opportunity to learn from it and don't repeat the patterns. And this is sometimes when I say patterns of repetitions, insanity cycle, and generational curses. You know,
mm-hmm,
some got to listen because when people open up and tell their story, I mean, they're telling it from a place of sincerity. They're telling it because they really want you to learn a lesson, not repeating what they went through. Because these
mm-hmm,
kids now, and that's why I was asking about being famous because these kids are making a heck of a lot, even more money, than you guys made. And you guys
mm-hmm.
made plenty of good money, but these kids are making. You see, I mean, whoever thought a quarterback would make $200 million? I remember Warren Moon was making, I think, 5 million in 5 years. I remember, and that was high back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We talk about $200 million. That would cover a whole team back in the days, you know. So it could be challenging. So I'm going to ask a few questions dealing with how did you find redemption? What was that?
Oh,
Those,
well, I mean, I found the redemption. Like I was saying earlier, my book was very therapeutic. Uh, it allowed me to look back, to assess my upbringing, the life lessons that my parents instilled upon me. I was
hmm
able to reference that kind of stuff. And what I didn't realize is that every morning that I got up to work on that book, it was inspiring me. Like I said, it
hmm
gave me a reason to get up every morning. And I would go outside my motel room, and I would have a cigar, and I would just start talking. I would be talking in the tape recorder, and I found redemption in just when I started just believing in myself again.
hmm
When I realized that everything that I lost was material, and that I was still standing, that meant a lot to me, because the reason why I
hmm
was in the funk that I was in is because I lost everything material, that what I thought was so important in my life. Um, I felt, the money, the cars, the clothes, the jewelry, those are things that I was missing. So
hmm
everything was based upon material, but I had to reference back to myself, and I said, you know what? I mean, I got those things believing in me. I mean, those things were lost, but I was found.
Yes.
So I was able to reconnect with myself once I lost everything,
hmm
and to really deal with what was important to me, and that's getting myself back on my feet, getting myself back together. So that was my redeeming part, when I realized that everything I lost was material, and I'm in this funk because I lost a car, clothes, money, women. I was like, what is that? I said, but I'm still
It's,
here. So once I realized that I was still standing, I knew I
mhm,
could. I know I could continue on.
So speaking of cigars and the
Mm.
book, I mean that's what you're doing these days, having
Yeah,
cigars.
well, yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm in Jacksonville
Yes.
now. I have my own sports talk radio show.
Yes.
It's on 1010XL or 92.5 FM. It's the flagship station of the Jaguars. This is actually, I'm celebrating my 5th year on with my own radio show in Jacksonville.
Oh, look at
Um,
you. 10
and
10.
This is my 5th year with the radio show. Like I said, my book has been ongoing now. November 4th will be its 3rd year in circulation, and it's still doing well. And then my cigars. My cigars are underneath the Howard G cigar brand.
Yes.
Howard G and Ike Taylor. Ike Taylor is a former professional football player with the Steelers, a two-time Super Bowl champion with the Steelers. So me, Howard G, and Ike Taylor are mutual partners in our own cigar brand. We've been in the business now 4 years. All our cigars are based out of Nicaragua. We've got 11 different blends, and we're in 17 states and over 72 cigar lounges.
Okay, it was I'm looking for it was something you sent me earlier. So if anybody's interested in cigars, again, it's the howardgcigars.com if you want to.
Yeah, you can go to howardgcigars.com. We've got 11 different blends. We've got the Black Moses, we got the Magic Stick, the All Pro, the One of a Kind. We've got the Perfect Round. I mean, we've got 11 different blends of our cigars. 11 different blends. This depends on what taste. It's all about your palate. You like a medium, mild, or bold, and we can cover all the aspects of your smoking pleasure.
All right, and also how do let me see? And also you sent me about how do you get the book? This is tenure.
Well, no, you can go to Amazon.com. And you can type in the book's name, Fourth Down the Dam, or you can type in my name, Leon Searcy, and the book will pop up.
All right. Okay. You guys need to support the brother on his cigars. As you say, he got different 11 different flavors, flavor of the month. We got 12 months. You can double up on 1 month. And also make sure that book, listen, one thing, hold on. I don't know what happened myself. You hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, mine just anyway, something came up. So listen, support the brother, but also understand this story that he's telling, a story of redemption. We all can learn something, I'm telling you. And I appreciate you coming on, man. You came through, man. I appreciate you. And what was unique about this, normally I ask so many different questions, but it was like I almost wanted to end it after you told it, because it was like just for me to sit down and just listen and take it in, because anybody know me, I'm a crybaby, so I'll probably cry tonight because it was so much that resonated with me in terms of my life and my story. And I know how it is. Michael Bay said men cry in the dark, because I did a lot of crying survival mode, trying to make a comeback. So I appreciate you, because the reality is we're not on this planet by ourselves, and we're not the only one going through stuff. So we have to believe in ourselves and love ourselves so much. So
that's right, self-love,
brother. Thank you so much. So, man, listen, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy life after the Gridiron, and thank you, brother Searcy. And so, just
thank you.
Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
Tune in and stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard? Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlister Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPNTv from viewers like you. Thank you.